The Alliance ship Horizon Star was moving through the dark of space. It was a massive vessel where humans and aliens worked side by side. Its long silver hull carried hundreds of crew from different worlds. The ship's duty was to patrol the outer borders, watching for raiders and keeping trade routes safe. Inside the ship, human pilot Ryan walked back to his quarters. He had just returned from a long patrol in his small fighter craft. His uniform still carried dust and scratches from the cockpit. He was tired, ready to rest, and his mind thought only of sleep. His room was a simple place, but it was filled with pieces of his life. A shelf of old books, a metal case, and a small plant he had grown from earth soil made the space feel alive. But when Ryan opened the door, he did not find the quiet he expected. Someone was inside. Standing in the middle of the room was an alien woman. She was tall, with soft silver skin that shimmered faintly in the light. Her dark eyes looked curious, not afraid. She wore the flowing uniform of her people, who were called the Alari. They were known for calm voices and sharp minds. For a moment, both stared at each other. "This is my room," Ryan said firmly. The alien woman tilted her head. "Oh. I see. I must have stepped into the wrong place." Ryan waited for her to leave, but she did not move. Instead, she walked to his shelf and touched one of the books gently. "This is made of paper," she whispered. "Your people still carry such things?" Ryan sighed, setting his helmet on the desk. "Yes. It is from my family. Old, but it reminds me of home. Now, if you don't mind." But again, she did not leave. She turned to face him, her eyes bright with interest. "Your quarters feel different. Warmer. My assigned room is empty. Cold. But here, it feels alive." Ryan rubbed the back of his neck. "Well, that's how humans live. We bring pieces of ourselves to our spaces. Pictures, books, little things. But you cannot stay here." The woman smiled softly. "My name is Zira. And perhaps I will stay just for a little while." Ryan frowned. "Zira, this is against rules. Human quarters are not for Alari." She sat down calmly in his chair as if she had decided already. "Rules can wait. I want to learn about you. I want to know why your kind surrounds itself with memory and sound." He blinked. No alien had ever shown this much interest in a human pilot before. Most worked together with respect, but they kept distance. Ryan could not decide whether to order her out or laugh at the strange boldness. "What do you mean by sound?" he asked finally. Zero pointed to the small music device on his desk. "That. I walked past your door earlier and heard it. I followed the sound." Ryan pressed a button, and soft music filled the air. A calm tune, from Earth's oceanside traditions. Zira's eyes widened as if she had discovered treasure. "This is beautiful," she whispered. "My people do not play such things in private rooms. Our halls are silent." Ryan watched her expression. She seemed almost enchanted. Something in her voice made his annoyance fade a little. "Music is part of us. We carry it everywhere. It keeps us human." Zero leaned back in the chair, listening. "Perhaps it keeps you more than human." For the next hour, instead of resting, Ryan found himself answering her endless questions. She asked about the medals on his wall, the plant in the corner, and why he kept a blanket that looked old and worn. He told her stories of training on Earth, of long nights in space where the only comfort was a piece of home. She listened closely, as if each word carried great weight. Time passed quickly. Finally, Ryan stood and crossed his arms. "You have learned enough for one night. You must return to your quarters." Zira shook her head slowly. "No, I do not wish to return. My room feels like a cage. Here, I feel safe." Ryan frowned again. He was not used to anyone refusing his words so simply. Yet something in her tone made it difficult to argue. It was not defiance. It was honesty. "This will cause trouble," he warned. "Commanders do not like rule breakers." "Then let them be troubled," Zira replied softly. "I will not leave." Ryan sighed and sat on his bed. His plan for rest was ruined, but deep inside he felt a strange spark. This meeting was not ordinary. An alien woman had walked into his quarters by mistake, yet somehow, it already felt like the beginning of something larger. The stars outside the ship remained silent, but within the small human room, two very different lives had crossed paths. Neither Ryan nor Zira knew how far this small accident would take them. The next morning, Ryan woke up with a heavy sigh. His room was still dim, the small plant on his desk catching the faint light from the corridor. He turned his head, expecting to find silence, but instead he saw Zira. She was still there, sitting on the floor with her legs crossed, quietly watching the little music device that had stopped playing hours ago. "You did not leave?" Ryan asked, his voice dry from sleep. Zira turned her head slowly and gave him a calm smile. "I said I would not. Your room feels alive. It has warmth." Ryan rubbed his forehead. "You cannot stay here forever. This is my space, and the rules are clear." Her eyes did not waver. "Your rules are for order. But my heart tells me this place is where I belong. I will not return to that empty cell they call quarters." Ryan stood up and pulled on his jacket. He did not want to argue again, but he knew this could not continue without notice. The crew was sharp-eyed, and word of her visits would spread quickly. Still, something about her voice, calm and steady, made him hesitate to push harder. "Come with me," he said. Zira followed as he stepped out into the corridor. Humans and Alari moved past them, nodding greetings but also casting curious glances. It was unusual to see an Alari woman so close to a human pilot, walking side by side. Some whispered quietly as they passed. Ryan guided her to the mess hall. The air smelled of food, metal, and faint ozone from the ship's engines. He took a tray and motioned for her to sit at the corner table. She obeyed, but her gaze never left him. When he placed food before her, she looked at it curiously. "You share meals in open halls?" "Yes," Ryan said, eating slowly. "Humans like to gather. Eating together is normal. It builds trust." Zira touched the food lightly before tasting it. Her expression shifted from surprise to thoughtfulness. "It is warm. My people eat in silence, with no sound, no gathering. This is very different." Ryan gave a small smile. "Different is not always bad." Her eyes softened. "Exactly. That is why I stay. Your ways are strange, but they make me feel something I never felt before." Ryan leaned back. "But you cannot ignore the rules. If the commander learns you refuse to return to your quarters, it will be trouble for both of us." Zira tilted her head. "Why must comfort and safety bow before rules? If something feels right, why is it wrong only because it is written so?" Ryan had no answer for that. Instead, he finished his meal in silence. Around them, the whispers grew louder. Humans glanced at Zira with curiosity, while a few Alari avoided looking at her at all. Later, when they returned to his room, Ryan tried again. "You must at least pretend to follow orders. Stay in your quarters sometimes. If not, I will be punished too." Zira walked to his shelf, touching the old books again. "Your people keep these because they carry memory. I want to carry memory too. I want to remember what it feels like to be here, in a place that is not hollow." Her words struck something inside Ryan. He had grown used to silence, to lonely nights between patrols. But now, with her presence, the room felt fuller. It was true, she disturbed his order, but she also gave life to the space in a way even his plant could not. he sighed. You are stubborn. She smiled gently. I am learning from humans. That evening, their conversation grew lighter. Ryan showed her how the music device worked, cycling through different songs from Earth. She listened to each one, closing her eyes as if she could see the world the sounds came from. In return, she told him of her people's history, how the Alari once lived among tall crystal towers, where silence was seen as a sign of wisdom. But silence, she added softly, is also loneliness. We lost many worlds. My people carry sorrow, but we do not speak of it. That is why I stay here. You speak, you share, you make space warm. I need that warmth. Ryan leaned on the wall, listening carefully. He had always thought of the Alari as distant and untouchable, but now he saw something different. Beneath their calm faces, they carried pain. And Zira, by stepping into his quarters, had found something she had long missed. As the night deepened, Ryan tried one last time. Zira, tomorrow I will be asked questions. If they learn you spend nights here, I will be in trouble. Zira looked at him with steady eyes. Then answer with truth. Tell them I came, and I refuse to leave. If they punish, let them punish me. But I will not step away from the only place that feels like home. Ryan stared at her in silence. She spoke with such certainty that he could not argue further. For the first time in a long while, he felt the rules of the ship bending under something greater. The stars outside remained the same, endless and cold. But inside his small quarters, something was changing. A human pilot and an alien woman sat together, bound not by orders but by choice. And though Ryan tried to deny it, part of him was glad she refused to leave. Days passed aboard the Horizon Star, and Ryan soon discovered that Zira's refusal to leave was not just a passing whim. Each evening when he returned from duty, she was waiting. Sometimes she was sitting on his chair, sometimes studying the books on his shelf, and sometimes simply listening to the music player. It became part of his daily life, as natural as breathing, though it unsettled him at first. Zira's presence brought change. Where his quarters had once been silent and still, now there was talk and laughter. She asked endless questions. Why humans wore medals? Why they decorated their walls? Why they smiled even when they were tired? Ryan tried to answer, though sometimes her questions made him think in ways he never had before. One evening, Ryan showed her a photo of his home village on Earth. The picture was old, the colors faded, but the image of small houses by a river shone with warmth. This is where I grew up, he said softly. Zira traced the edge of the photo with her silver fingers. It looks alive. Water, trees, sky. My people do not keep such images. We carry memories in silence, not in pictures. Pictures help us remember, Ryan explained. They hold the feeling of a place, so even in space, we don't forget. Zira studied the photo for a long time before giving it back. Her eyes carried a strange sadness, and Ryan wondered what memories she carried but never spoke of. Their closeness did not go unnoticed. Soon, whispers spread across the ship. In the mess hall, humans exchanged curious looks whenever Zira sat with Ryan. Some smiled, finding the sight amusing or even touching. Others frowned, uneasy at the bond between species that had always kept distance. One young pilot named Darren leaned toward Ryan during a meal and whispered, "Careful, friend. The commanders are watching. They don't like rules being bent." Ryan answered quietly, "She is not breaking rules. She is learning." "Learning or not," Darren said, "it looks like more than that." The word stayed with Ryan. He did not think of Zira in that way. At least, not yet. But he knew the crew was talking, and talk had power. Meanwhile, Zira paid no mind to the whispers. She continued to visit his quarters each day, ignoring any looks from others. To her, Curiosity and comfort mattered more than the weight of gossip. She enjoyed learning about humans. Ryan taught her to play a simple game with cards, and she laughed when she won against him on her first try. He showed her how humans wrote letters, shaping words on paper, and she tried it herself with awkward but careful strokes. In return, Zira shared stories of her people. She spoke of the Alaris crystal cities, now gone, where towers shone under twin suns. She told him about their belief in silence, that speaking too much weakened the heart. But she confessed that she had never believed in silence. Silence hides pain, she said one night as the music played softly. That is why I seek voices. Yours, the songs, the stories. They are light to me. Ryan listened, realizing that Zira was not just curious, she was searching for something more than rules, more than the empty rooms given to her. Still, Ryan worried. One evening after returning from a long patrol, he found Zira asleep on his bed. She looked peaceful, but he felt the weight of trouble. If a commander saw this, punishment would be certain. He sat quietly at his desk, thinking of what Darren had said. The next morning, the commander of the pilot wing called Ryan aside. The commander's voice was firm. "Pilot Ryan, there are reports. An Alari woman spends too much time in your quarters. You know the rules. Keep distance. We cannot afford tension between our allies." Ryan stood straight. "She is not a threat, sir. She is only learning." "Learning or not, it looks improper," the commander said sharply. "End it before it grows into trouble." Ryan nodded, but inside he felt torn. He returned to his quarters that evening, finding Zira already there as always, looking at his books. She turned with a smile. "You are late," she said softly. Ryan hesitated before speaking. "Zira, the commanders warned me today. They say you cannot keep coming here. It looks bad to others." Zira's smile faded, but her eyes stayed steady. "And what do you say?" Ryan opened his mouth, then closed it again. He did not know. He wanted to follow orders, yet he also did not want to lose what had grown between them. Finally, Zira stepped closer, her voice low but sure. "I will not leave. I told you before. Here, I find warmth. Here, I feel alive. If they cannot see that, then they are blind." Ryan felt his heart stir. He wanted to argue, but the truth was clear. Her presence had changed his life in ways he could not deny. Rules or not, he could not bring himself to push her away. Outside the window, the stars glimmered without care for human or Alari rules. Inside, in the quiet of his quarters, an unlikely companionship had taken root, one that no warning could easily break. Life aboard the Horizon star grew more complicated. Ryan and Zira's companionship had become the quiet talk of the ship. Some crew members found it harmless, even endearing, while others frowned and called it dangerous. The commanders belonged to the second group. One evening, Ryan was summoned to the command deck. The air there was always tense, filled with the sound of reports, data screens, and voices giving orders. Commander Vera, a stern woman with sharp eyes, stood waiting for him. "Pilot Ryan," she began, her tone cold. "We gave you a warning. Yet the Alari woman continues to spend her time in your quarters. Do you think rules are made for decoration?" Ryan stood straight. "She means no harm, Commander. She only wishes to learn. Her presence does not affect my duty." Vera's eyes narrowed. "Your duty is not just flying a fighter. You are part of an alliance. Your actions represent humanity. If other Alari see her breaking order, they may think humans cannot be trusted." Ryan felt frustration rise but kept his voice calm. "With respect, Commander, Zira is not breaking trust. She is building it. She is reaching across the distance between our people." The commander's gaze hardened. "Do not let your heart blind you, Pilot. If she refuses to stay where she belongs, then perhaps she does not belong on this ship at all. Those words struck Ryan deeply. He wanted to protest, but the meeting ended with a sharp dismissal. When he returned to his quarters, he found Zero waiting, as always. She noticed the look on his face at once. "They spoke to you again," she said softly. "Yes," Ryan admitted. "They say you should leave the human sections. They fear what others will think." Zero's silver eyes shone with quiet fire. "Let them fear. I will not go. They cannot command my heart." Ryan sighed, sitting heavily on his bed. "Zero, you make this harder. If you stay, we may both face punishment." She stepped closer, her voice calm but firm. "Do you want me to leave?" Ryan looked at her for a long time. The truth was clear in his chest. "No, I don't." For a moment, silence filled the room, but it was a gentle silence, not empty. The kind that carried understanding. Before either could say more, the ship's alarm blared. Red lights flashed across the walls, and a voice echoed through the speakers. "Attention crew. Raider fleet detected on long-range scans. All pilots to battle stations. All non-combat personnel remain secured." Ryan jumped to his feet, grabbing his flight gear. Zero followed quickly. "You must go to the safety quarters," Ryan said firmly. "Raiders are dangerous. Stay hidden until it is over." Zero shook her head. "No, I can help." "Zero, this is not a game. These raiders are killers. I cannot protect you if you are in the wrong place." But she did not step back. "My people have fought raiders for centuries. I know their ways. I know how they strike, how they turn their ships. I can give you knowledge your commanders do not have." Ryan paused. Her words rang with truth, yet fear tightened his chest. "If they see you on the command deck, they will punish you." She lifted her chin. "Better to be punished for helping than to hide while others fight." The alarm called again, louder. Ryan had no more time. He grabbed his helmet, his voice sharp with urgency. "Then stay out of the hangar. At least promise me that." "I promise," Zero said softly. With that, Ryan ran toward the hangar, his heart heavy with worry. He climbed into his fighter, the familiar cockpit wrapping around him like armor. Engines roared, and the bay doors opened to the cold stars. The raider ships were already visible, dark shapes cutting through space like predators. From the command deck, Zero slipped quietly into the shadows. Officers were too busy to notice her as she moved closer to the tactical screens. Her sharp eyes studied the raider patterns. She could see the trap forming, something the human commanders had not yet realized. She stepped forward, speaking clearly. "The raiders are pulling you toward their flank. They always use hidden ships to strike from behind. If you move the fighters too far forward, they will surround you." The officers turned in shock, some ready to scold her presence. But the commander hesitated, looking at the data. Zero's words matched the readings. On the battle screen, Ryan's fighter squad was flying straight into the danger zone. Zero spoke again, steady and sure. "Pull them back now, or they will be lost." The commander gave the order, and the fighters changed course just as hidden raider ships uncloaked from behind. Blaster fire lit up the dark, but Ryan's squad was safe from the trap. In the chaos of battle, Ryan's voice came over the channel. "That was close. Who gave the call?" No one answered him, but Zero stood tall on the deck, her eyes locked on the stars. She knew she had crossed a line. Still, she felt no regret. The fight was far from over, but the moment had already changed something. Zero was no longer just a guest on the Horizon Star. She had become part of its defense. The battle outside the Horizon Star raged on. Bright streams of fire crossed the darkness as human fighters clashed with raider ships. The massive Alliance cruiser shook as enemy blasts struck its shields. Inside, alarms screamed and crew members shouted orders. On the command deck, Zira stood firm. Her silver eyes followed every movement on the tactical screen. She pointed quickly as more raider ships shifted formation. They are circling again. They will try to cut off your fighters from the carrier. Send 2 wings upward now. Block their curve. The human officers hesitated, but Commander Vera gave the order. Within moments, Ryan's squad shifted position, rising above the enemy's arc. The trap collapsed, and several raider ships were caught instead, destroyed in a blaze of fire. From his cockpit, Ryan's voice rang with relief. Perfect timing. That move saved us. The battle dragged on, but the tide was turning. With Zira's warnings, the crew predicted enemy tricks before they happened. By the time the last raider ship retreated into the stars, the Horizon Star was battered but alive. Hundreds of lives had been spared. When the alarms finally went silent, cheers broke out across the ship. Some officers clapped Zira on the shoulder, their eyes filled with respect. Others remained stiff, uneasy with her presence. Commander Vera turned to her slowly. You broke protocol, the commander said firmly. You had no right to be here. Zira stood tall. And yet I saved your crew. Would you rather I had stayed silent and let them die? The room fell quiet. No one could argue with her words, not even the commander. But the look in Vera's eyes promised the matter was not finished. Later, when Ryan returned from the hangar, he rushed straight to his quarters. Zira was already there, waiting. She rose when he entered, her face calm. You were on the command deck, Ryan said. His voice carried both pride and worry. Yes, Zira replied. I told you I could help. And I did. Ryan shook his head slowly. You saved us, Zira. But the commanders will not see it so simply. They value order above all things. They may try to remove you from this ship. Zira's eyes softened. Then let them try. I will not go. Ryan sat heavily, pulling off his gloves. He was tired, but his heart burned with mixed feelings. Why do you keep saying that? Why risk yourself when you know the danger? She stepped closer, her voice steady. Because here, with you, I found something my people lost long ago. We fought the raiders for centuries, but we lost more than our worlds. We lost warmth. We forgot how to share, how to feel alive. Your people still carry it. And I will not step away from that again. Ryan looked at her for a long time. He remembered the empty feeling of his quarters before she first walked in. Now the room felt alive, filled with stories and laughter. He could not deny the truth, he needed her as much as she needed him. The next day, a meeting was held in the main hall. The commanders, senior crew, and representatives of both humans and Alari gathered. Ryan stood to the side, tense, while Zira was brought forward. Commander Vera's voice filled the room. This woman disobeyed orders. She left her quarters, entered restricted areas, and interfered with command operations. Yet in doing so, she provided aid that saved this ship. We must decide how to judge her actions. Murmurs spread through the hall. Some spoke in support of Zira, saying her bravery had protected them. Others argued that rules existed for a reason, and allowing her freedom would set a dangerous example. Finally, Ryan stepped forward. His voice rang clear. If you punish her, then punish me as well. Because I am the reason she stayed among us. I did not force her away. And I will not stand aside while she is cast out. The hall grew silent. Zira turned her eyes toward him, surprise flickering across her face, followed by a soft warmth. One Alari elder rose slowly from his seat. His voice was calm but strong. Perhaps this is the lesson we needed. For years, our people have kept distance, fearing that closeness would weaken us. But maybe we were wrong. Maybe this human and this Alari show us a path we have forgotten. The discussion stretched long into the cycle, but no final judgment came that day. Zero was allowed to remain on the ship for now, though the commanders made clear the matter was not finished. That night, in the quiet of Ryan's quarters, Zero sat by the small plant on his desk. She touched one leaf gently. "They want to send me away," she said softly. Ryan sat across from her, his voice steady. "Then I will fight to keep you here." She looked at him with calm eyes. "Even if it breaks the rules." "Even then," he answered. Outside the window, the stars stretched forever. Inside, a human and an alien sat together, bound by a choice that was no longer an accident but a promise. The days following the battle were tense aboard the Horizon Star. Crew members moved carefully around Ryan and Zira, some whispering, others avoiding eye contact. The commanders had not made a final decision, but it was clear they were watching every interaction closely. Ryan found himself spending more time outside his duties, simply ensuring Zira's comfort. She remained in his quarters most of the day, reading, studying, or listening to Earth music. Yet even with her quiet presence, tension grew. One afternoon, a group of pilots entered his room unannounced. Their leader, a young man named Darren, spoke first. "Ryan, the commanders are tired of waiting. You cannot let her stay here. It is causing unrest." Zira rose calmly, facing them with a serene gaze. "I do not wish to fight. I am here to learn, to share, and to live." "But you are breaking rules," Darren said sharply. "You have no right to interfere with our order." Ryan stepped forward, placing a hand near Zira as a gesture of support. "She is not breaking order. She is helping us understand each other. If you think she is a threat, then you are blind to what she has done." The pilots paused, unsure how to respond. Some glances exchanged silently spoke volumes. A few nodded slightly, their expressions softening, realizing that Zira had saved lives during the recent attack. Zira spoke quietly but firmly. "I am not here to take anything from anyone. I only wish to be near someone who shows me warmth. If you cannot accept that, it is your choice. I will remain here regardless." Ryan's heart stirred. Her courage was steady, unwavering, yet it was her honesty that gave him strength. He had never felt this protective toward anyone before. Later, in the ship's central hall, Ryan was called to a council meeting. This time, the gathering included the highest commanders and representatives from both human and Alari factions. Zira had been invited to observe but not to speak. Commander Vera's voice echoed. "Pilot Ryan, your actions have brought attention and tension. This Alari woman continues to enter human quarters without permission. You know the rules. Do you believe it is right to ignore them?" Ryan's eyes met Zira's. He felt a surge of resolve. "Yes. I do. Because she does not belong in a cage. She belongs where she can learn, grow, and be alive. That place, at this moment, is here, with us. Her presence has saved lives and given us knowledge we could not have gained alone. And for that, I will not apologize." The council murmured. Some looked angry. Others looked thoughtful. A few of the Alari elders exchanged glances, considering his words. Zira stepped forward then, surprising everyone. Her voice was calm but carried weight. "I have nothing more to give than what I already offer. I seek no favor, no power. I only wish to remain where I can be useful and feel alive. If that is forbidden, then I accept it. But I will not leave willingly." The room fell silent. No one interrupted. Even Commander Vera's expression softened slightly. Later, Ryan returned to his quarters with Zira. She looked at him with a gentle smile. "They cannot make me go," she asked softly. Ryan shook his head. "Not yet. and I will fight for you if they try. She touched his hand lightly. You risk much for me. You are worth the risk, he said simply. The next day, whispers continued across the ship. Some crew members admired their bond, seeing how trust and courage could form between species. Others worried that rules were being set aside, that boundaries were being broken. Yet, as days passed, small acts began to change minds. Pilots shared stories of how Zira's observations helped during training simulations. Engineers spoke of her suggestions that improved ship efficiency. Slowly, the crew realized that what had seemed like defiance was actually strength. Ryan and Zira spent long evenings together, not just as pilot and visitor, but as companions learning from each other. She showed him Alari techniques for focus and observation, while he taught her the human way of laughter, music, and patience. One night, they stood by the window, looking out at the stars. Zira spoke softly, her voice full of wonder. Humans are brave, not because they fight, but because they reach for connection. I see that now. Ryan smiled. And Alari are brave because they listen, they watch, and they learn. You have taught me that too. Together, they realized that boundaries existed only to be tested. The rules that once seemed rigid now shifted in the presence of honesty, courage, and trust. Outside, the stars remained the same, cold and distant. Inside, two very different beings had found understanding and connection, proving that true strength sometimes came from breaking limits. The Horizon Star moved silently through space, carrying humans and aliens, battles and whispers, rules and courage. And at its heart, a human pilot and an Alari woman remained together, challenging boundaries with trust, bravery, and choice. The Horizon Star sailed quietly through the endless darkness of space. Outside, stars shimmered, distant and indifferent. Inside, life aboard the ship was changing. Humans and Alari worked together more closely than ever. Whispers that had once carried tension now spoke of trust and courage. Ryan walked down the corridor, Zira following beside him. Their companionship had grown, accepted by many on the ship. Though some commanders still raised cautious eyes, the crew could see the value in their bond. Ryan felt a quiet pride. Zira had not just stayed, she had become part of the ship's heart. They arrived at the observation deck, a large room with glass walls that showed the endless stretch of stars. Zira pressed her hands against the cold glass, her eyes reflecting distant worlds. This place, she said softly, feels alive now. Because people can reach across distance. Humans, Alari, maybe others too. Connection matters more than rules. Ryan stood beside her. Rules are important, but they are not stronger than courage or honesty. You have shown all of us that. Zira turned to him, a soft smile playing on her lips. And you showed me what it is to belong somewhere. To feel warmth, not just observe it. Their conversation was interrupted by Commander Vera entering the deck. Her gaze was sharp, but there was less anger than before. She looked at Zira and then at Ryan. You two have caused discussion across the ship, she said firmly. Some fear it, others admire it. But I see the truth now. Rules are important, yes, but sometimes trust and courage can guide better than law. Zira bowed slightly. I did not seek favor, only to remain near someone who showed kindness and bravery. Vera studied her for a moment. Then consider this decision final. You are allowed to stay in human quarters, and your presence here is accepted as part of our alliance. But let this be a lesson. Strength comes from courage, wisdom, and trust. Zira's silver eyes shone with quiet relief. Thank you. Later, Ryan and Zira returned to his quarters. The room, once silent and simple, now felt like a shared home. Zira examined the small plant, touched the old books, and even rearranged a few items according to her careful sense of balance. Ryan watched, smiling. You are changing my space, he said softly. And you are changing me, she replied. We learn from each other. Their bond became an example for the rest of the crew. Humans and Alari began to share meals together more openly. They discussed tactics, training, and even personal stories. Laughter and music filled the corridors. What had once seemed forbidden now felt natural. One day, Ryan and Zero were called to the command deck for a routine briefing. As they entered, the crew glanced at them not with suspicion, but with respect. Zira offered advice during simulations, and her observations were sharp and precise. Every suggestion she made was met with attention, showing that her presence was valued. After the meeting, Ryan and Zira walked together through the hangar bay. Pilots and engineers nodded at them. Some smiled. A few approached, asking questions about the Alari perspective. Zira answered patiently, her voice calm, and Ryan watched her with admiration. You have changed the way the ship moves, he said quietly. And you have changed how I see humans, she replied. Together, we are stronger. That night, they stood by the observation window once again. The stars stretched in every direction, endless and silent. Ryan placed a hand on the glass, and Zero mirrored him. We have come far, Ryan said. Yes, Zero replied. Far from empty rules, far from fear. We are here, together, and we are stronger for it. A soft glow from the ship's lights reflected on the glass, mingling with the stars. For the first time, the human pilot and the Alari woman felt fully at home in space, not just as allies but as companions who had found understanding in each other. Their journey had begun by accident, with the wrong step into human quarters. But it had grown into something greater. Trust had been tested, courage had been demanded, and hearts had been opened. The Alliance ship moved forward, carrying humans and Alari, friends and allies, through the vast unknown. And at its heart, a human pilot and an Alari woman stood together, a living reminder that connection and courage could change everything. In the quiet of the night, Ryan and Zira sat together, listening to Earth music and sharing stories. Outside, the stars shone endlessly, but inside the horizon star, warmth, trust, and understanding had created a home that was stronger than any rule, greater than any fear, and brighter than any star. The galaxy ahead was uncertain, but they would face it side by side, together.